And now, please welcome to our panel to discuss education pipelines in the Heartland, moderated by my good friend Cordell Carter, Executive Director of the Socrates Program at the Aspen Institute.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Cordell Carter. I'm with the Aspen Institute, and I don't know if you've noticed, but the last couple of years we've had some disruptions to education. Have you all noticed the last couple of years been interesting? Yeah, this thing called COVID. Well, we have a great panel today representing a variety of professional backgrounds, multi-generational, to provide some insight on education pipelines in the Heartland. So firstly, I'm gonna have everyone introduce themselves, starting with Chelsie.
Hi, my name is Chelsie Alexandre. I'm a partnerships coordinator here at Concordia and also a recent graduate from Princeton University, class of 2020.
Thank you. Don.
Don Wettrick, CEO, started Up Foundation, teacher of 21 years, then also helped start Innovate Within, which is the state of Indiana's innovation and entrepreneurship program.
Great.
I'm Julian Vasquez Heilig. I'm the Dean of the College of Education at the University of Kentucky. I also serve as the Education Chair for the Kentucky NAACP.
Great, great. And since Dean Heilig is local, let's start with the hometown advantage, shall we?
Okay.
So, Dean Heilig, first of all, we must give him an applause for leading the highest ranked and largest College of Education in the state of Kentucky.
Thank you.
Give people their flowers while they can smell them. Words to live by. So, what initiatives is the University of Kentucky undertaking to strengthen high school to college pipelines and increase accessibility for education for all?
Great. First of all, thank you for the question. I really want to talk about some of our innovations. Now, I'm going to call them the 3 C's, okay? Credit, cash, and communication, okay? So credit. So one of the things that we've been trying to do is offer dual credit opportunities for students in high school. It gives them a taste of what it's like to be an educator, to be in the field of education. It's one of the areas that our educational leadership department is leading in, and it's a transition. And I'm going to go quickly on these answers because I know we don't have lots of time, but if you want to dig in on any of these topics, feel free to reach out to us at the college. Second, cash. College affordability is a real issue right now. And so one of the things we've been really focused on is how do we address the teacher shortage? How do we address, we also have the health professions and applied human sciences in our college. How do we attract those students to our college? So we've really focused on offering financial aid to those students. We're really glad to say about 50% of our admitted students are receiving some sort of financial aid. So we're really proud of that. And then the final thing is communication. Generation Z really wants to leave a legacy. If you look at the research on Generation Z, they want to leave an impact. And so what we've been really focusing on is pitching to those students how important they are in terms of teacher education, STEM teachers, social studies teachers, et cetera, and really pitching the fact that if you choose this profession, you will be on the front lines of critical thinking in our democracy. So using our social media as an ecology to communicate with those students where they are and to appeal to their sense of wanting to leave a legacy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Don, tell us, how has Started Up Foundation working to create innovation-focused mindsets that Dean had just spoke to?
Sure. When I was a classroom teacher, I had started this class called Innovation and Open Source Learning. Actually, it was inspired by Daniel Pink, Washington, D.C. resident, and he also pitched in and helped. Basically, we wanted our students to see problems as opportunities. And with that glorious hour and a half we had that day, we had, they could identify skills that they wanted to develop, and they could also learn from outside, which is the open source learning part. Part of that transition was getting kids to not just focus on a grade, or it was like their time. I'd often tell them, if school didn't get in your way, this 1 hour a day, what do you want to accomplish? And like what you were saying, like they want to provide an impact. Sometimes it's like, but I need this skill. So whether they wanted to learn how to code, or they wanted to learn how to, do an event or provide a service or app or whatever, that was the first step. And then getting them to collaborate in that open source learning way. It's not what you know, it's who you know is the thing that we hear all the time. And the answer was, okay, let's get our students to know people. And I'm here to tell you, if you're 16, 17 years old and you're on LinkedIn, sharing what your passion is, sharing what you're trying to accomplish, adults, cue a line. waiting for you. Like, we had so many students get internships that they didn't ask for. We had one of our students get asked to present at the United Nations in Geneva only because she was sharing what she was working on and a video went viral. So I say all that to say that in a lot of ways, we got them out of the culture of academia, just memorize stuff, and into the entrepreneurial mindset of, go ahead, try something. If you fail, that's part of it. Matter of fact, part of the grade, they had to reflect on what they took away from it. So every project was 2 weeks. If you liked it, keep going on. If you hated it, great, quit. I don't want you to go on. If you realized you hated it, stop. But in that reflection of growth was what we felt was learning. And it was the old model of just sit down, be quiet, and memorize was gone, and the students appreciated it, except for our straight A students, which completely freaked them out.
Right. Well, speaking of straight A students, Chelsie, as a recent graduate and a Princeton Tiger, I want your perspective on what the flaws you see in our current education models.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something I've been able to notice through my own education pipeline is something that Don has mentioned, which is that memorization aspect of learning. And I realized actually thinking about this panel and the questions that were being asked, I felt like we need to reframe the way we think about the purpose of receiving an education. I think we all have experienced or heard, even to this day actually, I'm still hearing this, where the reason you go to school is to get good grades, you get good grades to go to a good college, and then you go to a good college to get a good job. And that's it. But the thing is, I feel like as the dean was mentioning, there is this new generation that is hyper connected in this digital age. And right now they're seeing other students their age or younger achieving all of these like feats, all of these business opportunities, their startups, their TikTok dances, right? And succeeding without a college degree or higher education. And so then the question becomes, so why am I receiving an education? What is the point of doing this? And so I think in the process of trying to find a new way to reframe the purpose of receiving an education, I actually think what would really resonate with the younger generation is what Don was saying, which is kind of finding ways for collaboration and seeing education as a tool for connection. As I've gone through all of my education, I feel like one of the most important and transformative things have been the people I've met. And through meeting those people, I think having that connection and collaboration leads to the innovation that we want to see going further and thinking about opportunities for the future. So.
All right, well, keep your vocal cords warm because I'm coming to you first. Speaking of collaboration, whenever you're building a pipeline, if this is a real pipeline, there are a variety of actors from one end of the pipeline to the other, to the outcome, meaning oil to the ship, ultimately to the economy you're seeking to serve. As we think about human development, it's not just a university, it's not just the innovators, and it's not just the students, it's a bunch of actors, the type of folks that come to Concordia, private sector, public sector, nonprofit. What's the best example you've seen of a comprehensive pipeline that gets us to that outcome?
Gotcha. I do think I am a product of that.
Do tell.
When I was younger, I'm from New York City, born and raised, and I did a leadership development program based in New York called Prep for Prep. And the mission of that program is to provide low-income, high-achieving students the opportunity to achieve a really high-quality education in New York City. And after I finished the Prep for Prep program, when I was younger, the program follows you all throughout your life. So they keep following you once you get into high school, once you get into college, and professional development later on. The way I actually became acquainted with Concordia was through Prep for Prep and that partnership between Prep, which is a nonprofit, and the Libra Group, which is private sector. And so that cross-sector partnership actually opened up that opportunity for me to join Concordia and be sitting here on this panel today. Eventually. So I feel like I am a real example of all of those factors coming in together, of a cross-sector partnership working to get me opportunity. And so I feel like there's a lot of trying to figure out who to put the onus on. Is it only on the private sector? Is it only on students? I definitely don't think it should all be on students at all. And I do think having all of these sectors work together to provide these opportunities for our future is the key to creating all of to success, honestly.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Don, you stand in the middle of Indiana, trying to pull this off every single day. Tell us more.
So Innovate Within is our answer to hopefully this. So Innovate Within is not an all hands on deck for every student to be an entrepreneur, but more of an opportunity for students to see problems as opportunities and think like an entrepreneur. So we have really 3 rounds. The first round, if they take our curriculum, which is only like 20 lessons, they're immediately qualified for scholarships from one of 16 universities in our state.
Okay.
From there, they do a 3-minute pitch. We take then the regions, we have 10 regions, we have top 10. From there, we get them plugged into ecosystem building. That is to say, they a lot of times meet with their small business development center, they meet with their chambers of commerce. Mayors are our pot of gold. They're really interested in talent retention because some of these young students are actually building real things. Last year's winner were 2 students in very rural Indiana who started their own fishing bait competition, product where they have sales in all 50 states. Literally plastic injection molding worms and shad and crawdads. They're very profitable. And then that state level, we get them really involved. They have one-on-ones with their small business development center. Governor spends a lot of time with them, and we deliberately take them on a trip to another city to, again, expand that network. Because the more people our students can meet, the better. And we feel that that is a way, much like you're saying, a lot of these students had never, in some cases, been out of the county, or all of a sudden having one-on-ones with the governor or meeting with their SBDC counselors are getting recruited by these colleges that are like, hey, it's not just about the grade anymore. The company you're growing or the solution or the nonprofit you're trying to run, we're interested in. And I'm so proud of the fact that Indiana has put this much time and resources into it to really make it robust.
Thank you so much. Dean, if you could tell us about how the 3 Cs actually look like on the ground with all these different partners. Tell us more, please.
All the different partners. So, first of all, let me just say that you all have my mind running a million miles a minute up here. So it's hard to focus on the question. But so I guess, you know, we have 70 different community partnerships.
70.
70.
Wow.
In our college.
Okay.
I think that the number of MOUs that we have as a college is probably the most of any college on campus. So we are really committed to being community engaged and community relevant. You know, they often say about higher education, it's an ivory tower. And I like to say that Rapunzel so very rarely lets down her hair from that ivory tower.
Right.
But our college is grounded in being community relevant and community engaged, whether it's working with districts, et cetera. And what we really have to do with those partners is deal with irrelevant barriers. That's really the issue in higher education. I think about when I was a kid, I would watch the Olympics and there was this race called the steeplechase. And there was water and there was bushes and there was things that they had to jump over. And that's what we're doing to our young people. That's what we're doing to our teacher educators. We're putting all sorts of irrelevant barriers in their way. And so whether it's cost, whether it's racial climate, there's all these barriers of our own doing. And so as leaders, as academic leaders, as educational leaders, as community leaders, we have to work with our stakeholders to exit those irrelevant barriers.
Great. So I would love, in our last few minutes here, I want to give you, say 90 seconds. If you were speaking to the governor, and the governor said, Dean Heilig, what should I do? You have the entire state resources at your disposal. And if your outcome is to make more Chelseas, what do you do? What's your statement to the governor?
Yeah, well, okay, let me tell you, the last 20 years, we have focused on taking the joy away from students. So that's the first thing we have to stop doing. Test after test after test, canned curriculums, everything standardized. If you think back 100 years to John Dewey, he wanted to inspire passion in children so that they were creative and they thought outside the box. We have to stop trying to make widgets in our schools. That's what has made the United States so creative and innovative. So when we were talking about China off stage, that's what they're always asking us. How do we make our students as creative as your student? So we have to stop stealing the joy from our students and give them, there's maker spaces and all the other ways, there's innovative technology that you talked about. We have to restore the joy in our children and stop stealing it from them.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So Don, there's no doubt, you have maker spaces. You're working with all the schools in Indiana. You're speaking all over the country about it. But there is a steeplechase that you have to climb and conquer. What would you say to the powers that be, whoever they are, to pass through the steeplechase, make it just a normal run in the park?
I think to simplify it, I'll quote one of my favorite authors and maybe one of the most opinionated guys on education, Seth Godin. And in one of his books, he said education can really be boiled down to two things: solving interesting problems and the leadership to get it done. If we start thinking of our schools as solution centers, as innovation hubs, we could solve a lot of problems. Our students are very passionate about identifying problems. The follow through after the keyboard is what's missing. It's very lacking. So identify problems, interesting problems to solve, that's academics. Leadership to get it done, that's bring it out to the world.
Fantastic. All right, Chelsie, you're going to have the last word today. You're representing the Zennials and also the most recent college graduate on this panel. Okay, I think when I graduated college, you probably were still not born yet, not of this earth anyway. Tell us, as you look forward to the next 50 years of your life, what are you most hopeful for? What are you concerned about? What barriers do you see, perhaps a steeplechase before you that causes you some concern, and what's your prescription for going around it?
Yeah, I think what I'm hopeful for is the fact that coming to these conferences and seeing these businesses and looking towards the future will inspire a lot of hope for our current leaders to actually think about giving back to the younger generation. I think if you're always asking for innovation and new ideas and all this collaboration, you have to be willing to invest in that now and make sure that students are receiving that very early on. I'm worried that one of my worries and current flaws that I'm seeing is that we try and patch that on too late in the process of trying to recruit a very bright and innovative workforce. And so the earlier we start, I think the better, and that will have all my fears dissipate. So.
Fantastic. Well, the last word, talent is everywhere, opportunity is not. So let us all do more. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Good job.